I'm energized. Um, First of all, I want to give credit to everybody who's here on a Saturday, let alone a Saturday evening. And I think a couple of things strike me. One, the number of people who wanted to get together to hear me talk always just kind of blows me away. But secondly, the real reason you're here is not because of me. It's because of this group. It's because of this community that you've built across an entire continent. And that is inspiring to me because we're going to talk today about leadership. We're going to talk today about what that means. We're going to talk about some misconceptions. I'm going to share some stories, some success stories. I'm going to share some stories of failure. Because leadership means telling the truth. Leadership means understanding what really goes on and how to improve from it, whether it's a victory or a defeat. But can I just say something about just the vibe that I'm getting? And I got this from a few days ago. And look, we've been in contact. I was originally on the schedule for December, and I had to bow out at the last minute for a conflict that came up out of nowhere, and I apologize for having to reschedule. But to see the energy that goes into this, and to see the just the enthusiasm that this entire group has. We've got people in various countries. We've got people in various situations. Some are hanging out outside. Some are with their friends. I saw one person getting their hair done while they were watching this. Like, this is contagious. And I tip my hat to you, because as entrepreneurs, you are the problem solvers in our world. You are the people who say, there is something out there right now that is going unresolved. Someone has to do something about it, and there is not a good current solution. I'm going to create one. And not only am I going to create one, because we've all done this before. We've sat around the campfire, we've sat at the kitchen table, we have had conversations with our friends. It's really easy to complain. It's really easy to say, you know what? This isn't any good. This is a problem. Someone ought to do something about that. This group of people are the ones saying, you know what? I'm going to do something about that. That is leadership. Right? And we talk about businesses, and we talk about selling. I talk a lot about selling. We talk about problem solving. We talk about ways that you can profit financially from solving those problems. You know why? Because those problems are worth solving, and people show their value. People show their appreciation for that value by giving you money. And that's what keeps this whole engine going. But leadership is about more than making money. Leadership is about more than just doing the right thing. Leadership is about standing up for something and doing what needs to be done. And entrepreneurship is about doing what needs to be done, especially when it hasn't been done before. So thank you for the remarks. Thank you for the regards. Thank you for having me. Thank you for choosing me. But thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you for being leaders in your own worlds. Thank you for standing up for something worth believing in and doing something about it. So thank you. Now, what I want to do, and I know that traditionally here there's 20 minutes for someone like me to talk, and then 15 minutes of question and answer. But what I want to do is kind of blend those two things together. And I promise not to go over time. I think that was number 10 on the lists of, Zoom meeting things. You run a very tight ship here, down to the minute. I've noticed, I was paying attention, down to the minute. This is really well done, better than most Zoom meetings I'm on. But let me, and I will actually share my screen here. I've got a few slides. I'm not slide heavy here. But what is a leader? Think and write a little bit more about that. Leadership is being human and walking the talk. A leader takes responsibility, makes tough decisions, and fosters an environment where others can thrive. This is why this group is so successful. Thank you all for sharing this. These are tremendous answers. Here's what, and here's the last one that I'll take before we move on. A leader is someone who has the ability to make informed and decisive decisions. Thank you. Who noticed how many different definitions we had? Everybody notice? I mean, go back and if I scroll through here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different definitions. Probably got another one here. Here we go. A leader is one who lay his life for others, dedicates their life for others to get to their full potential. One who has influence over others to cause transformation. We've got a dozen, maybe a little more than a dozen different definitions here, and a few that didn't make it to the chat, right? Because not everybody's in a position where they can chat. What does that tell you about leadership? Leadership has to mean different things in different situations. Leadership has to be, it's really this thing that has so many definitions, it really can't be defined. So that's why I wanted to make this more of an interactive discussion here. I wanted to give you opportunities to ask me questions, specific questions about what you might need to do or might feel the need to do in certain situations. Because there are times when I have chosen the wrong leadership approach and it's backfired on me. It's led to a failure because I didn't have enough context for what I should be doing in the place. So I want to just kind of go and share a little bit about myself. I've been a leader my entire life in various forms. I've held leadership titles professionally. I've held leadership titles personally. But those things have meant different things as I've grown up. Now, if I go back to when I was a young man, barely a young man, when I was competing in sports as a teenager, I was voted captain of several of my teams. And in those instances, it wasn't so much about what I said, it was about what I did. It was about my examples that I was setting. It was about my work ethic. It was about showing up and doing the work even when I didn't want to. It was about taking care of myself physically, in this case, to make sure that I was fit to do the work on the field that we needed to do in order to put ourselves in position to win in competition. And even when I didn't want to, I always brought my best. And that inspired the people around me. As I got further into my career, once I stopped playing sports or never professionally, but stopped playing sports competitively, I moved into more of an intellectual leadership style. I had to show my talents. I had to set an example in a much different way. I had to make sure that I was studying. I had to make sure I was passing tests. I had to take leadership roles in the student groups that I was involved with. I had to organize study halls. I had to get people together to show them what I was excited about our profession. When I was in college studying sports medicine, I had big ideas about what we could do in our profession. I had frustrations about what we couldn't do in our profession. But I showed up and I led more energetically. I really became more of a coach. That's where I started to develop my passion for coaching and people development. And then, as I got out of school, I had more professional development. I took leadership roles and I started suggesting to people that that they could do things that they weren't sure that they could do. With the athletes that I worked with, I started to push them to do things that they weren't sure that they could do with my colleagues. And then I got into a sales role and I saw that it was really just leadership in a different dimension. Again, doing the thing that needs to be done the right way because that's the way it deserved to be done. And the funny thing is, when you do things the right way, when you do things with a high level of integrity, people notice and they're inspired. And so throughout my career, and then further on professionally, I've taken leadership roles. I've been the head of sales. I've been interim vice president of sales. I've had my own business now for the last 10 years. There are a lot of things that you find yourself in position to lead. So to just before we move on, I just want to underscore this idea that leadership does not happen in a vacuum. Leadership is not so easily defined. But leadership is this idea of looking around you, understanding what is going to benefit the greater good, or what is going to have benefits to the greater group of people, and putting yourself in position to make sure it happens. Sometimes it's you that has to do it. Sometimes leadership means stepping back and let the right people do it. And so what I love about how most people approach leadership is I see a problem, I'm going to solve it. And my first failure story comes from the idea that if you don't listen, you can get the leadership wrong. So my last full-time role, this was last year, I spent about 6 months as the head of sales of a company that I had been consulting with for a couple of months prior to. And they said, Jeff, we love what you're doing. I think you have what it takes to lead this team. It was a complicated situation. 2 companies were merged together. So they had formerly competed against each other. Those sales teams knew each other and competed against each other. Now they were on the same team. And it was going to be complicated waters to navigate. And they recruited me. I thought I was up to the task, and I knew what needed to be done. There were sales skills that needed to be developed. There were things that could be done better. We had big goals as a sales organization, and I wanted to jump right in, and I wanted to make an impact. And because I had spent time, 3.5 months really, talking with the leadership of this organization, watching the sales team perform the way they had performed, seeing the results that were okay but not great, I said, I know what we need to do. We're going to dive right in. And I dove right in, and you know what? The sales teams I was leading, they didn't say thanks for the help. They said, how do you know that's the problem? You haven't spent enough time with me. You haven't listened to me. I'm not sure you understand what we really do around here. And here I was, I knew what I knew. I saw what I saw. And I knew I was right. And what's really interesting is, over those next couple of months, my team started to see what I meant. They started to recognize the same things that I had recognized. And they also started to kind of take my advice. I was winning them over. But what would have changed had I done it the right way was, instead of coming right in and saying, this is what I know, this is what we're going to do, which was taking a lead, a better way to lead in that situation would have been for me to know what I know, or know what I knew, to have seen what I had seen, but also to have given my team an opportunity to feel like they were involved in that. And not just lying to them and saying, oh yeah, teach me what I don't already know, right? I mean, actually getting involved, staying curious instead of being judgmental. And it's a fine line to walk when you're a leader, because you need to make judgments. Sometimes you need to make those judgments very quickly. But if you make fast judgments, instead of sitting back and staying curious, you put yourself in position to lead the wrong way. So my question to you is, do you want to be right or do you want to succeed? Do you want to go fast or do you want to go far? And I love if we've come this far by ourselves, how far can we go together, right? And I hear this all the time. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Part of being a leader means giving other people an opportunity to show you they want to be led and how. Another thing that's gotten in my way. As a leader, you need to know what is important and what isn't. You all know this already as entrepreneurs. There are so many things you need to do. I had a meeting just the other day that I had to cancel. A friend of mine, he said, Jeff, I would love to meet with you. I am triple booked. Quite frankly, my meeting with him wasn't as important as the other 2 things on his calendar. I said, great, let's reschedule. Let's find another time. But you will find yourself with 10 things to do and only time to do 2 of them. Do you know what needs to be done? Do you know where your impact is going to be felt the most? You have to be able to step back, and you have to know when to delegate these things. You need to know when to delete those things from your calendar. Sometimes they can't be done, they can't be delegated. You have to make cuts. So do you know what's important? And do you recognize that it's not about doing more? It's about doing the right things, right? It's not about doing more things. It's about doing the right things. And your entrepreneurial journey and the success of your entrepreneurial journey will hinge almost 100% on making sure you're doing the right things instead of trying to do all the things. It's much easier to boil a pot of water on the stove or over a fire than it is to boil the ocean. Right? So think about where you can focus your efforts for maximal impact. This has gotten in my way in the past, something I'm working very, very hard to fix. But here's the other thing, and I want to wrap on this because I think this has actually been explained very well in the definitions that you've passed on, but leaders make other people better. You have an opportunity to put people in position to succeed even when they haven't succeeded there in the past. And I think this comes right on the heels of knowing when to be more focused instead of trying to do more things. When you find yourself in a position that you have to make a choice, well, but that other thing still needs to get done, who are you going to trust to put in position to do it? And when you trust someone that you believe in to do something, especially when they've never done it before, that's when magic happens. I have this project, it needs to be done. I need you to help me with it. But I've never done that before. I know. But I have, and I see what you're capable of, and I believe in you. I believe you can do that. I believe so much that you can do that I want you to do it for the first time on a project that means a lot to me. Are you ready? Your unwavering belief in other people makes them start to believe in themselves in ways they never have before. This is the real power of leadership. And this is where, regardless of any business problem you ever solve, the belief you instill in other people will last so much longer and have a much larger legacy than any company you could ever build. Because when you instill that belief in other people and they start to believe in themselves, it's contagious. Much like the environment on this call here. I come in and there's music playing and there's people dancing and grooving and popping in from all over the place, and just the way you all greet each other. And I love at the end, it's okay, and we're gonna have a speaker and we're gonna ask questions, and okay, but then there's networking time and then dance, dance, dance. Oh my gosh, I smiled every time I read that. I smiled when I saw it the first time. It's just like the energy that you have with other people lasts longer than any business impact, because those people believe in themselves, and then they, like any other virus or contagion, it is contagious. That belief is contagious. They're gonna take it and they're gonna put it in other people. And I don't know if you've heard this, but if you can't see it, you can't be it. Sometimes your belief in that person is the first time they've ever believed in themselves. When they see that they're worth believing in, then all of a sudden they believe in themselves. And that feeling is so contagious that they want to give it to other people. It's the best kind of contagion there is. So I have barely scratched the surface of leadership, but I know I've got a couple of questions, and I know that there are going to be more, and I've got about 10 or 12 minutes left here. I want to make sure that I can really tailor my remarks toward what you really need. So I've got a question here. How important are sales skills of a leader depending on their role? I think they're incredibly important, but I also have kind of a strange view about sales. I think anytime you ever ask somebody to do something that they wouldn't do unless you asked, you're making a sales call. And I think that anytime somebody does something because you ask them, that sounds like they're a customer. So everybody in your organization is a customer of yours. And hopefully you're a customer of theirs. I like to believe that if we all treated each other as human beings, as potentially our best customers, we'd get along a lot better. We'd solve a lot more problems. We'd laugh a lot more. We wouldn't agree on everything, because sometimes more than one thing needs to be true. But we'd have a lot more respect for one another. And so when you talk about yourself or your leadership in the terms of your business, when you talk about having selling skills as a leader, if you have other people in your company or in just any kind of relationship with them, you need to be able to help them see what is in their best interest about doing that thing you need them to do. I need someone to take on this marketing project. I need someone to build a go-to-market process. I need someone to hire people and fire people. All the things that need to, I need someone to manage the books and do payroll, right? Well, why should any person do that? Well, they should do it because it needs to be done and they're going to be very good at it. They've been chosen for a reason. I believe whenever you make that compelling argument, that's a sales call. So selling skills in terms of the way that we relate to other people and respond to other people, I think they're incredibly important. I'm just impressed by the vision, by the energy, by the enthusiasm, by the dedication. Look, it's the middle of the day where I am. I still have, I've got plenty of time to it's a Saturday afternoon for me. It's a Saturday evening for you. So if anything underscores the dedication you have, it's that you're willing to get together when it's otherwise break time or family time or things like that. But I'm just impressed by how enthusiastic you are to self-organize, to greet each other with this kind of enthusiasm, to support each other. I speak to a lot of groups, a lot of them virtually. Nobody has that I've been with to this point has been so professional and organized and running a tight ship. Like, I'm worried right now because I'm taking questions because I know people have these questions and I'm happy to be here and I can stay longer. But at the same time, I know that I'm over my time and I was told not to go over my time. And there's, but I'm just so impressed by how much professionalism and enthusiasm there is. The energy in this group, even through a computer from thousands of miles away, is palpable. And it's a credit to you and how much you care about this stuff to continue to do this on a weekly basis.